Grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine and tune in for Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. On Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, Linda creates sacred space for leading female luminaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. A soulful venue where guests openly share the fears and obstacles they've overcome, wisdom and lessons learned, and the personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic, soulful living.
Welcome to Inspired Conversations. I'm your host, Linda Joy, Mindset Elevation Coach, publisher of Aspire Magazine, and I get giddy when I get to bring you inspiring, empowering conversations that will open your mind and your heart to new possibilities. Today, we're going to be talking about how the tarot can be used to help you understand your own mysteries, enhance awareness of the hidden forces around and within you and within all of us, and how to use your willpower to manifest the life we desire. So we're going to be focused on how you can use the tarot as a spiritual development tool. And I'm so excited because a dear friend, someone I have known for a long, long, long time, is joining me today. Internationally recognized psychic, holistic healer, and teacher, Sha Blackburn, also known as the LoonWitch, has been empowering individuals to transform their lives using magical principles and her intuitive gifts since 1997. Since childhood, Sha has been drawn to the mystery schools and walks that path today. She's a Reiki Master Teacher, certified Neuro-Linguistic Practitioner, QHHT Practitioner, and is certified in Shamanic Healing from the Foundation of Shamanic Studies. Welcome, Sha.
Hi, thank you so much.
Well, I was excited about this conversation because, one, I also wanted to talk about this to kind of give everyone a deeper understanding of what the tarot is, right? Because everyone has their ideas of what it is and maybe some fears around what it is, but also help them understand how it can be such a powerful spiritual development tool. So why don't we talk about your story first? Like, when did you start working with the tarot?
I actually bought my first deck. So I know there's a lot of listeners out there cringing at this very moment. But I bought my first deck in the 80s when I was 16. And I had been reading the Gypsy Witch fortune telling cards for about 3 years at that time. And I have to tell you, when I got my first deck, I looked at it and I was like, I don't like you at all. I didn't understand it. I thought I had to memorize this big, huge book. And I found it really, really stressful to work with the tarot. So what I did was I put it aside, after trying to figure it out for a few months. I said, all right, I'm going to just put you aside. I can't deal with you right now. And I spent a lot of time looking at the cards one by one. So that's how I actually taught myself how to read the tarot. And I did it by pulling a card at random every single day for 78 days. So basically I spent a summer looking through each card, seeing how the card was playing out before my eyes in my life, and connecting back to that imagery. And there's so many different decks out there now that I feel like everybody can find a deck that really speaks to them. I actually collect them and have a little over 200 decks right now.
Oh, Sha, do you know, I've known you a long time, and I didn't know you're an avid collector. I love that.
I am an avid collector.
Yeah.
I have so many crazy decks, some that are out of print, and of course I left a list of the more expensive ones with my will, so that if something ever happens to me, Bert will know like what to sell and what to save.
Oh my goodness, I love that. And I'm really curious because, so when you said you drew a card every day for 78 days, did you just intuitively look and received the message, or were you still referring to the book that came with it? Or did you just want to build a relationship with it?
So I put the book away because I found it very stressful to try to look at every deck comes with a pamphlet, and the pamphlet has all these generic meanings behind it. You know, your Queen of Swords is this, your Three of Swords is this, and it may not, those generic meanings may not speak to you in every single reading, because when you're doing a reading, you're actually creating the story of a person's life in that moment and what they need to be learning about and talking about. So I intuitively would pull a card. I'll do one right now, even though we're not face to face and we can't see each other. I just pulled the Nine of Pentacles. So everybody that's listening at home can pull also their Nine of Pentacles if they have a deck of tarot. And what they'll find is they'll find a woman who's standing in her secret garden. There's a wall around her. She usually has like a very elaborate bird, and she's in this beautiful, elaborate costume and has lovely plants, and everything else is very abundant and flowering around her, but she's walled in. So when we think about a woman who is in a beautiful space and she's walled in, it brings to mind a lot of different things. You can look at it from many, many vantage points, right? Is she walled in because she's built up a wall to keep herself in her sanctuary? Is she walled in because somebody else built the wall and kind of is keeping her in the lap of luxury or keeping her comfortable? But also, is she walled in because somebody is keeping her in an illusion? And
Ooh,
right, so there's just three things right off the top of my head that you can look at this card. The imagery in the cards, even no matter what deck you buy, the imagery is similar enough where you'll get a similar message when you're looking at it. And you kind of have to think about, some days it may be that somebody is trying to keep her in an illusion. It could be that the illusion is a corporate job that she had for a long time that gives her stability and security. It could be a marriage that she's been in for a long time and they own property together and have children, and so maybe she's not ready to step out on her own. Or it could be her own dominion that she's created for herself, and that's where she wants to be and feels very safe. So it's not always about what we do to ourselves, but it's also not always about what other people are doing to us or for us. It depends on how you feel in that moment, what the first part of that image is that speaks to you. Is it the wall? Is it the bird? Is it the flower? Is it the dress? You know,
yeah.
so we can get really, really deep in the tarot. And it's one thing I recommend to my students, even though I teach several different types of tarot classes. I always recommend to the students, put the book away, build the relationship with your cards for yourself so that you can see how they want to communicate with you. And it also allows you to understand how you communicate with yourself. If you're looking at images and you're constantly thinking about what other people are doing to you, that's how you communicate with yourself. That's where your self-talk comes from. You always feel, I shouldn't say always, I got to avoid those broad generalizations. You often feel like things are being put upon you, or you're not in control of your own life. And if it's looking at an image and constantly or continually seeing how you are in control and how you are the key player in every situation, then that's where your self-talk comes from. It comes from you being empowered or standing in your own power, and maybe only seeing what your thoughts and desires are, as opposed to community thoughts and desires, or the highest and best good for you and your family and.
It's so extraordinary. So much can come from a person's own view.
Oh,
Like
absolutely. Yeah.
people, because as you were describing the card before you gave the, description,
Mhm.
I mean, as you were given the description, when you were describing it, I immediately went to abundance when you said garden, flowers. And when you said the wall, um, I said to myself, maybe because I'm a mindset elevation coach, I said, ooh, it could be their thoughts and limiting beliefs walling them in.
Absolutely.
It came up immediately again, maybe because that's what I do for people. That's what came up.
Yeah.
So one of the things is I love that you said is because I have all kinds of different types of decks, and I do have a question for you when we come back from our first break, because I'd love some clarity. And I love that you said about putting the book aside, because I'm like, okay, how does this relate to me? Because I'm reading what someone else said instead of just intuiting, and I'm very intuitive. So I still keep the book handy, but I notice I don't look at them because I have a couple favorite decks.
Yep.
Don't look at them as often. And now I love your reasoning for not looking at them. It's an intuition building tool.
It is, absolutely. I would take the card that I pulled each day, put it in my wallet, and bring it with me everywhere. And I'd be subconsciously looking for that card to appear in real life or in real action in my life.
Ooh, I love that. Now, I have never taken it with me, but for many years, I had one of those little frames you buy at Michael's. It has a little clip on it so you could clip a photo, and I would have it right on my desk, and I'd clip the card of the day
Yeah.
and keep it right there in my energy field. So I love that. We're going to take a real quick break, and when we come back, we're going to dive even deeper into this. I'm so enthralled with this topic. We'll be back in a moment, my friends. I'm with Sha Blackburn. You can stay tuned because we have some more juicy conversation coming. We'll be back in a moment.
Connecting you with the best of the conscious minds in the world. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
Inspiration for a Woman's Soul. Aspire Magazine, inspiring and supporting women on the path of self-discovery. Claim your free digital subscription today, which includes access to thousands of dollars of personal development bonus gifts from Team Inspiration partners. Claim your Aspire Magazine subscription today at subscribetoaspire.com.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. AscendingHearts.com.
Consistently attract soulmate clients, begin showing up on brand, monetizing on your calling. Welcome all spiritual coaches, leaders, healers, light workers, and practitioners to a show that turns you on in your business and amplifies your magnetism. I'm host, catalyst, and spiritual business coach Rosalind Fung, and I'm here to journey with you into the juicy and help you discover where the real gaps are. Ignite your mindset and soul with strategies and systems as each episode takes you to the sweet spot that activates your soulgasmic business by tuning in on Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Mountain. Join me for your light language activation and let's magnetize and monetize.
Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
Welcome back. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. I am with internationally recognized psychic, holistic healer, and teacher, Sha Blackburn. And today we're talking about using the tarot as a spiritual development tool as well as an intuitive development tool. You can learn more at LoonWitch.com. So Sha, one of my questions is, because I've seen it come up in communities and I've been curious over the years, for those who hear the word oracle deck and tarot decks, is there a fundamental difference?
Yes,
Okay.
there is. That's the short answer. The long answer is your tarot decks have 78 cards. They have only 78 cards. There are a few decks. Now that I've said they only have 78 cards, I'm going to tell you there's a few decks that have 80 cards or 79 cards. And the reason behind those additional cards, especially with one deck in particular, the Thoth Tarot, is because they, meaning the people who created that deck, want you to choose between two options for a couple of different cards. And then there's another deck that has a 79th card, and they list that 79th card as the unlimited possibility card. So if it comes up in a reading, it's kind of like you have to take yourself out of linear time, take yourself out of everything that you've believed, and realize that this 79th card is kind of like God popping into your life and saying, okay, this is what we're doing right now. However, traditional tarot decks only have 78 cards, and oracle decks usually land between 44 and 52 or 56 cards in a deck. They don't usually go over that amount, and oracles are typically used more for self-reflection than working with a client, you know, unless you're doing a coaching exercise and you want them to kind of be inspired by that particular card. Whereas your tarot is broken into two arcana, and arcana means just like a story or a mystery. Think of it as like an unraveling. You've got your major arcana, and those are the cards that are the Fool's Journey. So it starts with card number 0, which is the Fool, ends with card number 21, that is the World. And it's the evolution of our soul or our existence, and how we start out knowing nothing and being prepared for nothing and everything all at the same time. And then we learn and grow and evolve throughout the course of our lifetime until we finally get to the World, which is like the climax, if you will, where we know and understand everything that's possible for us to know and understand in our limited life. And then the minor arcana is where our playing cards came from. That's the 4 individual suits. Each suit has 14 cards in them, and those suits relate back to our everyday life. So you've got a suit that relates back to money and family, a suit that relates back to your work and your social activity, a suit that relates back to your mindset, and a suit that relates back to your intuition and emotions.
So that's a big difference, because it sounds like, in my understanding of what you just said, is it predictive or
Yeah.
is it guiding?
It's both. It
Okay.
can be predictive. If you phrase the question, what do I need to pay the most attention to in the next week? And you shuffle your cards focusing on that question. And then you pull 1 or 2 cards at random, then it's predictive, right? It's telling you this is something that's going to come up, and this is what you need to pay attention to. If you're looking to discover some truths about yourself, then it's not predictive. It's not telling you what's going to happen or what is potentially could be happening, but the tarot is going to reveal to you some of the things that you keep hidden from yourself. You know, so if I were to hold my deck, because I don't know, can you hear me shuffling them?
That's okay.
I always have a deck right here. So if I were to shuffle while I'm thinking about what is something that promotes me having negative self-talk, and I pull one card, the card I pull is the 6 of Swords. And the 6 of Swords, just to describe it, is typically a person in a boat. The boat has 5 swords point down in the base of the boat. And then it also has one character who may be shrouded or look like they're an ethereal kind of being, and they're actually steering the boat, and they're usually steering it with a sword, which isn't exactly the best way to steer a boat, especially a boat that potentially has 5 or 6 holes already in it. But when you, right, and they're going across this big body of water, and you can usually see some land in the distance. So when you think about that card, and my question being, what is something that typically promotes my negative self-talk? And then you think about, well, I'm not steering my own boat. I have no control over where I'm going. So if I tell you that swords relate back to the mindset and the intellect, then you have, so it's really appropriate, right? Because that's where our self-talk comes from.
Yeah.
You got to love how the cards are working with you all the time. So then you start thinking about, it's really in my mind. And when I allow my thoughts to wander into places where I feel uncomfortable, then I start allowing that fear to creep in, and I start putting myself down, because these could be thoughts that have been put on me from other people in my life, ex-boyfriends, ex-spouses, parents, grandparents, teachers, bosses, all of those people that take a role in developing who we are. Maybe I took on too much of their unhealthy criticism, and instead of growing from it, I just hung on to it, so that when I start to feel uncomfortable, I go back to those not good enough, not good enough, not good enough, and I start to give up control.
And that one card, right, is like you said, it gives you the insights of where, it gives you the insights to the question you just asked it. So that's
Exactly.
where the personal spiritual development part comes in. Here's the thing I always hear. Some people get afraid. I can remember a girlfriend maybe 15, 20 years ago. We were all at a big show, like there was vendors, and she saw a tarot reader, and she got scared because of the imagery on some of the cards, because she saw the death card, right?
Yep.
But the death card doesn't mean, am I correct, that if you get that card, let's talk about that card, because I think that has a lot of triggers for people.
It does. It does. And
Oh.
yes, so the death card all by itself does not mean you're going to die. It typically means it's what happens after I'm using my air quotes, nobody can see. It's after the death has already happened. So once you have released something, given up on something, moved beyond something, it signifies new life, new growth, expansion, metamorphosis. So the things that happen once you've left behind that old, worn out, used part of yourself or relationship, once you don't need that anymore in your life, the death card comes in and says, okay, now your grieving is done. I'm just letting you know that's dead. It's dead to you. You don't need it anymore. Your grieving is done. Let's look to the future and see what comes from the new life that springs up from death. And when we think about death, before we had people entombed in concrete in the ground, we would bury them in the earth, or we would burn them and their ashes would be scattered someplace. And all of the nutrients from the body, as it decomposes and is decomposing in the earth, brings forth new life. So all those parts of our physical form that were no longer serving us because we don't need them, we've ascended to a different level, right? Now it's nourishing the earth. Some new flowers can grow. The tree that it's planted under can be nourished. And there's a big movement right now for people to be buried in like a root ball of trees and all these more natural things, which I think is great. But the death card is not saying you're going to die. It's saying part of you, your situation, whatever that stressful, negative aspect was, is already gone now. Look to, what did you learn from it? How can you take that part of yourself and use it to nurture you moving forward? Physical death in the tarot, usually, for me anyway, I can't speak for all tarot readers, but for me, I need to have 3 very specific cards come out in a reading in a very specific pattern, and then I know. And it's happened. I've been reading the cards now for about 38 years, so I can tell you that those 3 cards have come out in the quote unquote death sequence for me probably only about 2 or 3 times in all that time.
So it isn't something to be feared. So I'm so glad that you dispelled that, because I think that stops a lot of people from moving or trying tarot over oracle cards.
Yep, absolutely. Another piece of it goes back to the Bible quote, which I can't remember what book of the Bible it's in, that thou shalt not suffer a witch to live, or you're not supposed to use any kind of divination. And for people who are really into the Bible, I encourage them to read more than just that one line and really look into it, because back when the Bible was being written, it was very common for noble people to have a soothsayer or have a fortune teller working with them. Sometimes it would be an astrologer, or sometimes it would be somebody that was using a different form of divination. And that was as a predictive tool, so they could see, how is this battle going to come out? Is there something that I should know about my enemy before I go to face them? And it was a really very common practice. So when you are going to get a tarot reading, you want to think of it in terms, yes, it's predictive, but it's not set in stone either. There is nothing that you can't control in your life. And I feel like people don't realize enough that the only things that we as human beings have control over is ourselves and our actions and reactions to things. So if I'm giving you information that you don't like in a reading, if I'm telling you that you're going to get divorced and you're going to lose your house, and you don't like that, because who would? It's up to you to make changes in your life to avoid those things from coming in. You can say, well, let's say you cheated on your spouse and you're going to get caught and he's going to want to divorce you. Well, how can you change the course of that? One, stop cheating on your spouse.
Yeah.
Two, go into some kind of counseling or therapy and have a frank conversation with your spouse about why you cheated or why you feel like the relationship is in peril. And a lot of times just having conversations with the people that we care about is a huge shift in what happens and how they act and react towards that stimulus, and how you act and react towards the conversation that happens. I have a client that always wants to ask about love, and every time I see love coming into their life, they say, well, and they give me, 3 or 4 different excuses why now is not the right time for them to find love. And I just keep telling them, okay, so if you don't want to find love, it's just going to keep coming up because it's available to you and you keep turning away from it. And that's why it's not coming into your life, because your actions and reactions to that information are like, that's not something I want or am prepared for. So we push that mentally away.
I love this because I always believe our thoughts and emotions, attract our reality.
Absolutely.
And so I love this whole conversation about the predictive part of the tarot. We're going to take another break, my friends. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about that before we move on to something else, because I do have some questions. And I think this will give people a lot of peace, too, of how we can use this. So we'll be back in a moment, my friends. I invite you to visit Sha at LoonWitch.com. She has an extraordinary free gift there called the 3-piece Magical Living Elevate Your Frequency Kit. You can grab that while you're there. We'll be back in a moment.
The best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
There is magic within you and all around you. Sha Blackburn, internationally recognized psychic, shamanic healer, and teacher, known as the LoonWitch, has been empowering individuals to transform their lives using magical principles and her intuitive gifts since 1997. Sha is a high priestess in the Order of Blended Wisdom Coven, ordained minister, Reiki Master Teacher, certified Neuro-Linguistic Practitioner, and QHHT Practitioner, certified in Shamanic Healing from the Foundation of Shamanic Studies. For over 20 years, she's been a popular media guest, providing wisdom and live intuitive readings. Sha offers an empowering variety of in-person and virtual workshops on the topics of divination, healing, metaphysics, and more. Clients around the world turn to her for tarot and rune readings and to her intuitive wisdom for guidance and clarity. Ready to tap into your magic? Visit LoonWitch.com.
More than 24 million Americans have an autoimmune disorder, and that number continues to grow. I'm Sharon Saylor, and I'm one of those 24 million. To put that number in perspective, cancer affects about 9 million and heart disease up to 22 million. That's why I've brought together top experts and those thriving regardless of their diagnosis to bring you the latest, most up-to-date information. Join me, Sharon Saylor, Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, for the Autoimmune Hour on Life Interrupted Radio to find out how to live your life uninterrupted.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Free your mind with Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
Thanks for joining us. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. This is your host, Linda Joy, and with me today is Sha Blackburn. So I love everything you just shared about the predictive that our thoughts, actions, and something else you said is reaction, the way we respond, because I believe it's a response to everything in our life that sets the stage for what's going to happen. If we're always reacting, then we're creating chaos in our own lives. But if we can respond from love and not react from fear, I think I put it this way, I've learned from my own journey. So one of the other things is when you go to a tarot reader, do people say, I don't want to hear anything negative? Do they have that choice to say that? Because some people, I think, don't go for that reason.
Oh yeah, I've done a lot of events where people will come sit in my chair and they'll say, "You're not going to tell me anything negative," or they'll say, "I don't want to hear anything negative," and I tell them right then, I'm not in control of what you're putting into the cards. So if you're having a bad day, don't go get a reading. If you are in a negative headspace and you're having just like kind of that Murphy's Law sort of moment where everything seems like it's going wrong, don't go get a reading. It's not fair for you as the client to try to put parameters around what the universe wants to tell you. And our job as a tarot reader is really to tell you all the things that you want to tell yourself and all the things that the universe, God, the angels, your spirit guides, whatever, want to share with you. And sometimes those things are not going to be comfortable for you, but what an opportunity you're missing by trying to force somebody to change what their guidance is giving them to share with you. So most of the time when people come and they'll say, I don't want to hear anything bad, I'll sit and talk with them for a minute and see if we can get a different mindset going before we do the reading. And if I don't think that they can come to that real positive mindset, then I might tell them I'm not going to give them a reading.
Yeah, because what I'm hearing is it's putting parameters. You're, as the reader, aren't in charge of the cards that come out. It's
Right.
It's their energy, what's in their energy field that is, I guess, choosing the cards that appear. So it isn't like, well, Sha, I didn't want that card. Well, Sha didn't pick it. Your energy field did. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
That is correct. Yep. Even when I do phone readings and I'm the one that's shuffling the cards, I'm talking with you while I'm shuffling. So, and I'm not asking you any personal questions. I might say something like, oh, how's the weather been wherever you are? Or, just little sidebar conversations to get your energy into the cards while I'm shuffling. And that way I know that I'm getting what you need to hear is coming through.
Yeah, see, I love that. And so I want to talk about too is how do you care for your tarot deck? How do you keep it free? Because like every person free of, I don't want to say energetic clutter, I guess.
Yep.
Negativity. Because especially like if you're at an event, which I know you do a lot of events, how does someone keep their deck clear?
So it's a lot like, how would you care for your children? How would you care for your friends, your family? I treat my cards as if they are my best friends. So every deck that I have, when I take it to go to an event, it has a nice cozy little carrying case. I keep it with some crystals. I typically like to use rhodonite and black tourmaline with my cards, mostly because those cards help to clear the EMF field, help to keep away negativity, help to cleanse things after they've been handled. And then I always shuffle in between each client. I'll go through and I turn all my cards to be facing in the same direction. I'll shuffle 9 to 11 different times in between clients so that it's getting that previous person's energy out, and the new person can then be free to put their energy into the cards. And then once I'm done for the day, I'll bring them home and I'll usually fan them out and smudge them, put them in. I have a dish of crystals that I let them sit in for 24 hours so that they can be cleared of the day's work. You know, it's kind of like we take a shower and take care of ourselves and clean ourselves up at the end of the day or at the beginning of a new day. You do the same kind of thing with your cards.
I love that. And I love, so you said rhodonite and black tourmaline?
Yep, those are my go-tos for my tarot, for a lot of things, really.
Taking notes, my friend. And so circling back to the beginning of this episode, you were talking about putting the book away and really listening to the visual cues you get from a card yourself, as well as the intuitive hits. But how do you know when you can trust what you're receiving? Like, I know that in all the years I've been doing different personal and spiritual developments, like, is my intuition real or is this just what I want to hear? You know, you start to question. I don't do it as much now, but I know when I was on my journey, that was a big thing. You're like, Lynn, how do you know you're not making this up? It's not really your intuition. So talk about that. How can they know that there's trust in what they're hearing?
Sometimes, and I get a lot of adults that come and learn from me, and a lot of times they'll say, you know, I used to be psychic when I was a kid, and then I just turned it off. And a lot of times when we are growing up and going through school and things like that, our parents, our teachers, our peers will tell us those things that we believe. You know, they'll tell us things like, I don't want to disrupt any parental things about, you know, Easter bunnies or Santa Claus, but a lot of people will say those things aren't real. And we have to know that our individual experiences are our truth. So when you look at a card and it speaks to you and you can feel it speaking to you, like that 9 of Pentacles that I pulled out in the beginning, and I was describing the card, and you immediately had a feeling about it.
It was instant. It was.
Yep. And it's kind of like some people will get the hair on the back of their neck will stand up. Some people will get like a little shiver down their spine. Some people just get that sense of knowing. Some people will sit up a little bit straighter or take a deep breath. Your body is going to alert you when something is real and when something is, that's just, you know, like seagulls at McDonald's parking lot when you're sitting there eating fries and they're landing all over your car. It's because you're at McDonald's parking lot, not because the seagull has some, you know, spiritual message for you. But if you were at the top of Mount Washington and a seagull came down and landed on the hood of your car and stared at you, that is a spiritual sign.
Yes.
Because they're not there, right?
Exactly. And going back to that 9 of Pentacles, that's exactly how I received it. I thought of the garden first. I'm like, oh, so beautiful and abundant.
Yep.
And then the mindset blocks that person has because they're fenced in. So in my mind, they have mindset blocks around abundance. That's what dropped in that 2 seconds. And it did come through as a knowing, even though I'm not visually seeing the card in front of me because we're on the radio, but that's what you're talking about. It was just a knowing of, oh,
just that knowing.
Yeah. And I didn't second guess and go, well, that wouldn't mean it. So that's what you're looking for, is those moments of knowing, and everyone receives that different. Like I sometimes will get soul bumps on certain things.
Yeah.
But normally it's just drop in knowing, and now I trust my knowings, whether it's working with cards or anything else.
Yep.
It's something you said at the beginning too, is you wanted those 78 days to build a relationship with that deck. And really that's what it is, right?
Yes, it
That
really is.
will come as you create the relationship with your intuition and the cards.
Yes. And I highly, highly recommend that people journal. I can't stress enough how valuable it is in learning to trust your intuition, that you're writing things down that you feel or see when you're working with cards, so that later on, when that thing occurs, and it might be 1 day, 7 days, 30, 60, 90 days away from when you had that first intuition, but you can go back and say, when it happens, often we're like, oh, I knew that was going to happen. And you can go back through your journal and say, oh, yeah, that was when I pulled that Nine of Pentacles and I journaled this 2 or 3 sentences about it. And now here it's come full circle. I can see that Nine of Pentacles in action in my life.
I love that. And I'm a big journaler. We're
Me
going to
too.
take a final break and come back for the last segment. And what I want to talk about that part a little more, about the journaling. And I just had something drop in and now it went poof. So we're going to go to break and we'll be back in a moment. Please visit Sha at LoonWitch.com. We'll be back in a moment.
The best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
Are you ready to invite more gentleness and less judgment into your life? Self-worth coach Nancy Reed, longtime teacher and facilitator of A Course in Miracles, supports successful, empathic, and mission-driven women to embrace their perfectly imperfect self with curiosity and gentleness. She holds loving space and compassionately guides women to learn to trust the wisdom of their soul and live from their dreams, not their perceived limitations, and to quiet the voice of their inner perfectionist so they can hear their inner voice. Nancy is a popular media guest and author of the award-winning book, Happily Ever Now, Not After Everything Else is Perfect, a gentle guide for overcoming the paralysis of perfectionism by embracing our innate guidance. For supportive resources, inspiring content, and to join her Sparkle Circle Facebook community, visit nancyreed.com.
This is Kathy Beal, host of Celestial Compass, featuring astrology you can use. Celestial Compass points you to what's going on in the sky and what you can do with it down here on Earth. We also explore fun, effective, and cosmic tools for navigating this adventure we call life. Join me the first and third Monday of the month at 5 p.m. Eastern Time for Celestial Compass. It's enlightening, entertaining, and empowering.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of Om Times Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of Om Times. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community. Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
You're listening to Inspired Conversations, my friends. Thanks for circling up with us today. I am with internationally recognized psychic, holistic healer, teacher, and my friend Sha Blackburn. You can learn more at LoonWitch.com. So I love the idea about the journaling. When you draw the cards, I've always done that. I always draw my cards for I don't go by New Year's. I go, my birthday is my new year.
Oh, I love that.
Oh yeah, always. I probably 20 years ago, I stopped doing the New Year reading or anything like that. So my birthday is the start of my new year. So my question before was, do you have favorite daily spreads or anything you want to talk about different spreads someone could use, the simplest ones for beginners?
Oh, yeah. So there's two really simple spreads. One is a single card pull, and with a single card, you're actually getting a yes or a no answer. and you're getting feedback on that yes or no. Why is it a yes or no? What are the factors around? Because think about what is it? Confucius says every picture is worth 1,000 words. So if you have a tarot deck, you have 78,000 words at your disposal, right? So when you pull a card, that one card is going to tell you a simple yes or no based on your initial reaction to the card. And then it's going to tell you more information because you've still got, 999 words left.
So are we
So
asking, when we do the single card pull, are we holding a question in our energy field and
not
then?
always, not
Okay.
always. The single card pull can be, a lot of times when I'm teaching, I'll say to my students, ask the question to the universe of, will today be a good day and why? And then do your single card pull. But if you are just like, I wonder what the cards have to say for me today, and you pull a card at random, and then this is an interesting card that I just pulled. You look at the card, the answer of yes or no is right in front of you. Is today going to be a good day? That's your yes or no. And then the why allows the card to expand on why you feel yes or why you feel no. But you don't have to have a question in your mind. You can just be like, I wonder what's in the cards, or just randomly pull. I recommend if you're going to pull randomly with no question that you do it while you're still laying in bed before your feet touch the floor. And the reason behind that is kind of silly, but the reason behind that is because once your feet touch the floor for the day, you're already making decisions about how your day is going to proceed. And when you're in bed, you're still in that in between time of I'm not up and running yet. I'm still mindful and contemplative and thinking about what I want to become today. So you're in that more spiritual, ethereal mindset.
I love that. I have a morning ritual that I do. So I believe in that sacred space from when your eyes are opening to when you
Yes.
go to bed. So believe me, I get that too. So we still have a few minutes left. So what's another spread that they can do?
The second easiest spread is called I call it the 3-card easy peasy. And the 3-card easy peasy is literally 3 tarot cards. You pull one first, and this one typically you would ask a question.
Okay.
And the first card goes down in the center, and that center card is the now. It's what's happening right now, either around your question or what's happening right now without any question. The second card that you pull as you're sitting facing the card on the table, you're going to put that second card behind the first card on your left hand. And that is the past, or how you got to today, how you got to card number 1. So card number 2 kind of tells you, like, how'd you get into this situation? What were the contributing factors to that? And then the third card gets pulled and goes on your right hand. So it goes in front of that center card. And that's the most likely outcome to what's going on with the 2 cards before you. So how you're going to get out of the situation or how the situation will resolve. And that's a great spread to do when you're contemplating things like changing jobs or changing careers, or if you have a question around your health, although I typically don't like to answer health questions, and I don't recommend that people rely solely on their cards or a card reading to discuss what's going to happen with their health. I do feel like if you are nervous about having a test done, your fears may be allayed by doing a little reading and seeing, like, oh, perhaps that test that showed I had cancer maybe is human error, and when I get the test redone, it will be okay. Or maybe it will give somebody the courage to seek a second opinion. And in that case, I think that it's fine, but don't make your life decisions on a card reading.
Such great advice. And I love that you shared some ways that I call it playing with the energy, right? Make it fun, make it playful if you're going to begin using or getting to know a tarot deck. So in the last few minutes, do you have any special decks that you recommend? Or I don't know how you choose a favorite out of 200 babies, but do you have a favorite?
I don't have one favorite. I do have one that I use pretty consistently, and it's the Hanson Roberts Tarot. That's the deck that I teach with. And one of the things that I love about that deck is it's pretty traditional in the artwork. So it goes back, a lot of people know the Rider-Waite deck is one of the core decks. And although I do own a Rider-Waite, finally I own a waterproof version of it. So I kind of like that. But I prefer my imagery to be more whimsical, so that when I'm doing readings for people and they're looking at the cards, because that is the vehicle, that's the medium between myself and the person that's getting the reading. We're both looking at the same image, and their energy and their energetic reaction to the imagery is coming through to me. Even if I'm not looking at them, that energy is coming through. So I prefer that my cards don't look scary. Even my Devil and Death cards, they're kind of whimsical. And so the Hanson Roberts Tarot is a great deck. It's a smaller deck, so if you have smaller hands, it's really good. It's easy to understand. The colors are really bright. And another deck that I absolutely adore is called the Happy Tarot. And the Happy Tarot, I tell people, it's kind of like if Candy Crush Saga were to meet the tarot and have a tarot baby, it would be this deck. There's nothing in that deck that is scary at all. Even the most feared cards, like the Tower card, the Devil card, the Ten of Swords card, those are some of the most feared, that people are like, I don't want to look at that card. They're so adorable, you just can't even get upset. And that's a great deck to use if you're going to read with children. If you've got
I think that's wonderful that they came up. I mean, just the name, automatically, but I think it's great. The energy opens the doors for someone to play with it instead of closing the door and going, I can't do this, I can't do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's wonderful. And I just want to invite everyone too, as this conversation, you shared so much, Sha, but you offer so many services. I know that you have a new website coming soon. So yeah, the show is airing in early April, so keep your eyes open, everyone. But you can connect with Sha at LoonWitch.com. Grab her 3-piece Magical Living, Elevate Your Frequency gift set. It's there waiting for you. Stay connected. You can book readings and so much more. And she is located in Massachusetts, but does a lot of shows and events throughout Southern New England. So, but of course, she is available online. And Sha, thank you, because you dispelled so much. And I know for many women listening. So I'm so grateful for you. I appreciate you joining me.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Do you have a last minute short message that you want to leave everyone with?
A last minute short message. Oh my gosh. Well, don't be afraid of the tarot. The tarot is a way for you to tap into yourself. And if you want to learn more about how to read the tarot effectively for yourself and others, reach out to me and let's get together and I'll teach you.
Oh, I love that. And again, everyone, that's LoonWitch.com, and Loon is LOON, witch.com. Until next time, my friends, choose love, choose happiness, choose blessings. Have a wonderful day, and we'll circle up with you soon.
Thanks for listening to Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. Join our sacred space every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern and meet leading female visionaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. Inspired Conversations with Linda Joy is a soulful venue where guests share the obstacles they've overcome, along with wisdom and lessons learned on their personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic and soulful living.